أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم. We have been discussing some important ayat about family matters, and today I hope I'll be able to conclude that discussion, and then after that, inshallah, I'll start the technique or the methodology of counseling, because all these things which we have discussed were based upon the information or the experience of counseling at Mariam Islamic Center. And when I conclude that part also, that is counseling, I would request that if you want to guide me further, if you want to add anything, because this part deals with how to do this counseling for our young couples, for our families, for our children, and you have a better experience, you have more experience, and you have more knowledge. You can contribute to that if you will guide me. I think this will help me in improving these techniques or methodology. So I come back to the discussions which have taken place during last some weeks. I'll summarize that. That is all the discussion which has taken place during these uh, weeks. I'll just expose some of the slides so that you recall and we can recapitulate as a summary of all. The model of Muslim family in Islam is based basically on this ayat, that is Surah 30, ayat 21, in which Zawaja, Mawadda, Sakana, Rahma, all these important pillars of the married life, of the married couple, which is the foundation of a family, have been mentioned. On the basis of this, I had presented that this is how this model is constructed. And in this model, there are other two elements which are taken from some other ayah, that is labasa and hasana. What is that? We have already discussed that it is as if this model has been placed in a casing, labasa, well protected. And this casing is further placed in the fort, hasana, musen, and musanat. And when I say that it is in this slide, it starts with mawadda, but in this slide it starts with the same sequence, but I added one thing more, that is ihsan. This entire capsule, this entire model is further placed within ihsan by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also mentioned in the Quran. So this is the model of Muslim family, and this has to be understood. And in this ayat, I have presented this as a vision. I have been discussing it from different angles so that it is inculcated in our mind. When any couple comes, I try that it is inculcated in their minds that what is the Islamic model. Once they understand it, they will not deviate. These are the ayat. We are not going to discuss, but I'm just exposing before you. Now, this entire capsule, this entire model, as I said, is covered by ihsan, and it is all for Allah, lillah. We are created by God, and our relationship is for lillah. Our relationships are created by Allah. Therefore, all these acts are lillah. Even if I may not like to adjust with the husband or with the wife or with the children, but I may, for the sake of God, that I am doing it for lillah. As Ibrahim alayhi salam said, that all my life, all my ritual, everything is for lillah, is for Allah. Now, these are the ayat which I am not going to explain, but we have already discussed these things. This is just for the sake of recapitulation. And then There was one item which we had discussed, and I'm recapitulating it because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this item. That is, talaq is not a one-time call. It is not a shut-up call. That one with one call one strikes out everything. Talaq attains finality. Finality is important in the sum total of steps in time. Steps in time, iddat. Iddat, and the responsibility of this iddat has been placed in an ayat which has been addressed to men, where women have to hold back their anfus. That is a separate ayat where the ayat there where the word has been used ayatarabbasna, rabbasa. They have to hold back their nafs. But so far as the counting of iddat, the completion of the process within the given time is addressed to the men. I have shown that ayah. Now, all these steps have to be completed in time. If the man lingers on the process of talaq in order to harm or hurt the spouse, then there is a severe punishment mentioned in Quran. Here in this world, the punishment may be imprisonment or fine or anything, but one must understand that this punishment in the hereafter, is only and only by fire, because this is the transgression of hudud Allah, the limits of Allah. Human relationships, and particularly family relationships, have been protected by hudud Allah, tilka hudud Allah. We have discussed that also. Talaq is a process. It's not a point of time, not a happenstance or idiosyncrasy. It is not an abrupt accident in a point of time, but a procedure that may conclude over a given time. This is talaq. And for that, I had discussed ayat number 34 and 35 of Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 229 of Surah Al-Baqarah, and ayat 1 to 11 of Surah At-Talaq, that is 65, and some other ayat. In other words, now this is the presentation in a model that how all these procedures are to be considered together. Talaq consists of pronouncement, that is saying or writing talaq, talaq, talaq. Then procedure, which has to be completed in 3 courses. Then conditions, for example, the condition of tuhur. Then its validity, there are various factors. Then its effectivity, from which date it will become effective. At-talaq marratan, still one has time to come back. It means its effect is not so quick. Then consequential course. This is extremely important, that if you don't decide what are the consequences, what will be the consequences, what will happen to the children, what will happen to each of the spouse, and in the case of the wife, if her future social security has not been provided, mata, it's not only the dower which has to be given, it is not only the maintenance during iddat which has to be given. The Quran says, mata, sarahan jamila, it could be for life for the divorcee. We have discussed these things, and from Quran. This is not from any other legal system of the world. This is from Quran. There are certain attitudes which have to be corrected, and the conduct between pronouncement and finality of talaq. How the couple, how the partners have to behave is extremely important, that we had also discussed. And then, if I can place it explain this model from some other angle, I had shown that at that time also. This is the architecture of a family system, of a married life, which has a purpose. This is the infrastructure. Then, hudud Allah, I mentioned, it is protected by the perimeters of conduct, attitude. And then I had given an example from the Judaic family that they train their parents and nurses for parenting. We don't train our children for parenting. And we don't train our nurses in this model. of Quran. They train their nurses not only in the legal system, not only in the related sciences, but also in the religion. That what the Judaism says on the subject of family. These things have to be brought together as a course or nurse. In our nursing system, there is no such module or syllabus in our courses. And we have to inculcate the human view as a part of world view. But basically, our world view is missing. We have to inculcate, we have to teach the human view within the world view of Quran. What is a human view? We are creating a human being. Create and develop man in the beautiful image of God so that she can emulate behavior according to the attributes of God. The Prophet, peace be upon him, says that if you want to understand Asmaul Husna, if you want to memorize them, if you want to understand them, if you have love for God, adopt these attributes in your attitude and in your conduct, in human relationships. This is also part of training. Children are necessary extension of marital bond. It's not just mutual fondness. It's not just a sensual or sensuous relationship. It has a purpose. The highest purpose is the build up of civilization. And we are making some manufacturing defects when the wife is pregnant and we are fighting. The manufacturing defects are taking place, and after that we are in fact taking poor maintenance. We are giving poor maintenance to the infant, to the child, in terms of mental development particularly. The more the parents jointly prepare in advance, and Quran says that when you are going to your wives, plan it in advance, the better their life outcomes are. So that there are better outcomes of their life. And I had also explained the intergenerational issues. We are creating intergenerational issues from generation to generation. We are taking that cultural baggage. And during this emotional disorder between the husband and wife, there are certain reasons, some psychological reasons, or maybe medical reasons, or maybe other reasons that they are affecting the child also, and the child may also suffer from these disorders. The right parental behavior can help program these genes while the baby is being fabricated. Simple exercises can help us. I had discussed those exercises. And remember kindly that unborn babies are sensitive to the tone and the tune of their own parents, not only mother, but their father also, while they are in the womb. Emotional health of the couple is the basis of well-being, their well-being, and well-being of the baby, of the family. Baby in the womb is exposed to everything mother experiences, sadness or happiness, whatever she experiences. Depressed mother could lead to neurological problems. Fetus is collecting information, recording information. Pregnant women's stress, anxiety, depression, and other negative emotions can affect the growth and development of the fetus. And after that, we had discussed the model of family. And I had discussed it with reference to one of the models of an advanced nation, scientifically, economically, a nation which has almost similar model, and that also has a religious basis from Confucius. This is possible. And the basic qualification for Qawamun is if somebody claims to be the head of the family, but he is not Qawamun bil Qist, and he is not one of the Shuhada Lillah, then he is disqualified to be the Wali. If such case comes before the court and it is proved that by character, by conduct, by behavior, the person is not fit to be wali, the court has the power in the Muslim worlds and the laws. I had discussed those laws also slightly. They can appoint some other guardian. This is in the law. There is a separate act called Wards and Guardians and Wards Act. And this was given by the colonialists in the 19th century. But unfortunately, in the present day, this model has been lost because the priorities have shifted and we are more affected by the models which are prevailing in certain countries, and we are exposed heavily to those situations. And on the top of it, I'm telling you from experience, not in one case, but in many cases, when the couples come, they are otherwise masters, they have degrees, they are MBAs, they are PhDs, but they say we have not read Quran. We were never exposed to Quran. We don't know Quran. They are simply following personal cult of their father or their mother or some imam or somebody who is running this as a business. Shaykhul Islam. He is not teaching Quran, but just he is developing his personal cult because it has money. The message is lost. We are not reading that message. And I had shown that when we have moved away, then these are the consequences. Children outside wedlock and divorce have become acceptable. And I had shown the comparison that the country economically advanced, most advanced, and otherwise scientifically, technologically advanced, and when they are following the model based on morals, morality, modernity based on morality, look at the achievements. The rate of divorce is the lowest in the world, and the rate of the births outside marriage is the lowest in the world. These are the benefits. And Quran says that you can plan and you can produce the children as you want, develop the children as you want. If you want to produce them as zealous, we are already doing that. But we want to correct the situation, we can correct it. Allah has left it to us. And then the family roles, parental roles, and couple roles. Here, couples, they don't distinguish between the couple role and the parental role and the amalgamation or reconciliation of these two roles. That they have to play both these roles in an equation in a family. Domestic divorce is something different from domestic violence. We have discussed this. And then this model is based on biodifferentiations. Roles are based on natural selection, natural and biodifferentiation. And this is based on equation, not on equal dimensions or equal sizes of man and woman. It is based on equation. It's a natural family. It's a model of natural family. And the natural family, for the natural family, it is necessary to preserve both genders, not one. There is no permission for selective lifestyle. Now, with this, I conclude this, Alhamdulillah, the discussion which we had started on this model. Now, I'll come to the present the discussion which we have to carry on further on counseling. Today we are going to discuss what is counseling and how the counseling should be done. Before that, I must submit that when the couples come, they are not clear in their mind what is counseling, mediation, or other things. They raise certain points, they raise certain things, and they demand many things. And sometimes they raise very embarrassing questions, and one would say even weird questions. But one has to be very cautious and very careful in handling those situations, and then bringing them to the point of counseling. We are not dealing with other aspects, but all this process is called alternate dispute resolution. This is a system outside the court. And what are the different types of alternate dispute resolution? Counseling, negotiation, mediation, collaborative law. This is another arm which is developing. Collaborative law, arbitration, and so on, instead of litigation. This is the substitution of litigation, that without going to the court, the issues are resolved. And here, my job is not arbitration or not collaborative law, but my job is counseling. We are now discussing counseling. And counseling in a way helps all other procedures. Even those procedures can be saved. Litigation can be saved, but the starting point is counseling. We are doing counseling only. What is alternate dispute resolution? Is a mechanism comprising processes and techniques for assisting. This is for assisting the disputing parties to come to an agreement instead of going to the court. This is the purpose of ADR. And in the collaborative law practice, law is used and there is a legal process. For example, for divorce. But here you are simply advising. You are not sitting as a court. You are telling them about the law. Mediation is a process of negotiation to resolve differences and bringing them to a settlement. Although the settlement is not binding on them, but you are trying to bring them to a compromise. That they compromise and then they settle their own matter. They may go for divorce, but they settle the matter amicably. Here the mediator or the counselor has to be very neutral. And arbitration is a different technique. Arbitration is a process in which disputant parties submit by agreement. And I had taken this training or certificate from University of Houston in 2015 in international commercial arbitration. Both the parties agree to the arbitration, and it is under the law. It is a binding effect that the award given by the arbitrator has the force of law. It has the force of judgment, like a judgment. It has to be enforced. Then conciliation is a different technique. As I said in 1970, that was my first job when I was appointed. I was conciliating between the trade unions, labor unions, and the employees, the industrialists, for example. Conciliation is a process of pacification, peacemaking between disputing parties, preventing them from conflict. You see, there are slight differences in the techniques and handling these things with the purpose and objective. Then counseling, which we are doing here, and I think the credit goes to Dr. Mamdou Salama and Dr. Anwar Wadiwala, who had initiated, who had supported this, and ISGH took up this project. Counseling is to provide assistance and guidance In counseling, guidance is very important in resolving personal, social, or psychological. Not psychological in the sense of a psychiatrist that you are acting as a psychiatrist, but you have to understand all these situations, what is the exact nature of the problem and difficulties. Counseling as mechanism for dispute resolution. Now, this is important for the counselor. If you are a parent and you are counseling your children, it is important for you to understand. Counselor should comprehend situation of the couple, even if he is a son or a daughter or daughter-in-law, in respect of following aspects without being direct, without being casting any sarcasm, without being direct, without asking. One should understand, know these factors. One is when he has to take into consideration their ages, their education, cultural baggage, from which country they have come, from which cultural background they are, environmental pressures and conflicts, peer pressures, school pressures, university pressures, neighborhood pressures, children, parental and peer pressures, economic positions, overall life experiences, attitudes, Islamic knowledge and moral attitude about marital matters. It is here that we have the basic problem. That the moral attitude, they say that we have been discussing these issues in the school and college, and they discuss without inhibition, and there are no morals. And the in these marital matters, the Islamic knowledge is very important because they are Muslims, but they are lacking this knowledge. Now, it is important for the counselor to understand all these factors. He cannot just dash when the couple comes and he starts counseling. It's not like that. He has to understand all these things. And then, how to proceed? Distinguish, first of all, whether it is a case of normal dispute agreements. There will be disputes. There will be disagreements between two persons, wherever there are two human beings, because they have different positions of looking at the same thing, different angles of looking at the same thing. There will be different observations, and because of different observations and experiences, there will be disagreements, and it is normal. So one has to understand whether it is a normal couple disagreement or it is an amalgam of personal disagreements, personality disorders, and environment issues. If it is an amalgam, then the problem for the counselor becomes slightly complicated, but he has to understand it and he has to proceed with it very carefully. It's normal for couples to disagree. But when, for example, one of the elements like bipolar disorder, bipolar personality disorder is involved, then simple argument can lead the couple into a major conflict. If any one of them or both of them are suffering from any psychological disorder, then even the normal disagreement between husband and wife can lead to a conflict. And that has to be resolved. It's not a hopeless situation. The problem with, for example, this order is they do not seek and they do not agree to counseling. They just refuse. Only last week, a couple came where the lady completely refused during the first half an hour that I will not speak about any issue. I'm not at fault. I'm not going to discuss anything. I simply want talaq. Half an hour. She did not say, but I did not lose hope. We have to bring slowly, and I just wanted to, I was telling her that you have to say at least one thing, that why I want you talaq. He said, I will not say. I just want talaq. I told her about the hadith that when a woman came to the Prophet, peace be upon him, for khullah, he asked her, why do you want khullah? And she gave her one reason, at least one reason, one thing. She refused. But ultimately, when she started talking, now she's talking, quite loud. Now, BPD couple repeatedly use hostile strategies, disrespecting the husband or wife. They become hostile. This is common practice. They even abuse each other. During ongoing severe episode of BPD, it is not the time to tackle potentially the sensitive topics, and you have to postpone certain topics from discussion. You cannot discuss everything upfront at the beginning. Gain time, appropriate time, and give them time wherever possible. This is important for the parents also to understand how to deal with the son or the daughter-in-law, or the daughter and the son-in-law. Partner should provide the person with BPD understanding. How this understanding is to be created, we'll go into that. Emotional support. Don't fight. Rather support him or her and encourage him or her for treatment or counseling, at least in friendly and indirect manner. Don't tell her or don't tell him that you are suffering from some disorder. Don't say that. Indirectly support it. With the right support, a BPD person can improve relationships. This is my experience. It is curable. It is important for partners and loved ones to be involved with the individuals. Don't reject them. Don't scold them. Don't turn them out. Own them. Bring them within your own embracing fold. Don't leave them. Love them. Now the process starts. When we understood these situations, this thing, then the process starts. First, the most important part is, as I said last week experience, first, the counselor has to bring the parties to agree, not by disagreement, have to agree to listen to each other. This is the important starting, but they don't want to listen to each other. At home, why the conflict has grown up? Because they don't listen to each other. They talk even. They talk both at the same time. They don't listen to each other. They talk just to retort. One has said something and I must say something back in a more severe way. So one, you have to first of all make them agree that they are going to listen to each other and listen to each other without interruption. Even if she speaks for an hour, I listen. And the person, the husband also has to listen. Or if he speaks for 2 hours, the wife listens. And believe me, sometimes say that I don't know whether he said this thing. And we never listened to each other in this way. We were talking and talking. We were in fact cross-talking. In the family, in the home, at home, when these conflicts arise, they simply cross-talk. They don't talk because they don't listen. And then understand their own position from that talk. For example, when a couple, one of the partners says that I have this grievance, this grievance, this grievance, the other person has to understand and starts understanding. It becomes obvious there that now he or she is starting to understand, first of all, her own position vis-a-vis what has been said. And then they also have to understand each other's position. In any conciliation matter, in any arbitration, in any negotiation, it is very important that the parties understand their own position, what they want, for example, and the position of the other person, that why he wants something different. What is his problem? This is very important for own position and position of each other. Once they understand this, then you can think that now the ice can melt. Now there can be a thaw. Ice can melt now. The counselor has to listen carefully to the parties till they conclude themselves. This is also very important. It's not if you interrupt them, Then, no, I understand, you don't repeat it. Then their minds get agitated. If not at that time, next time they will come back again to that point and they will say that you didn't understand me. So let them complete, let them conclude on their own. Don't interrupt and don't feed them with your words. When they complete, then the field is for you to guide them, to counsel them, to tell them how to proceed further. The parties must speak one at a time so that they can listen to each other without interference. They may better sit together. It's better that you talk to them collectively, simultaneously, together, not one by one only, but together. They may identify better themselves. They should identify themselves. I don't, for example, you have seen my methodology here that somebody asked me for, say, for example, they say, what is the fatwa on this? I say, I don't know. I tell you the ayat, you read the ayat, you understand the ayat, and you tell me what you understand from this ayat, and then I'll guide you. And they themselves, by listening to each other, by understanding each other's position, they come out. Now, this is not, in fact, the real dispute. The real dispute is this one. They come out themselves. They identify the points or the angles of their own dispute. Let them identify themselves. Because you will not be 24 hours with them. They will go back. The parties should spell out themselves. Don't put your words in their mouth. What each of them wants clearly. If she wants a divorce or he wants divorce, let him or her say clearly what he wants, not ambiguously. Based on what the couple stated and the clarity in the answer to the question about what exactly they want, the counselor should now counselor's active role starts. First, he was listening. Now his role starts. Understand and frame. They have identified the issue. Now you have to frame the issue. And the court does this. When both the attorneys have spoken or the parties have spoken, then the judge frames the issues. Then you understand and frame the issue. That is dispute and its nature. It's not only understanding, it's not enough to understand that they have a dispute on finances, on expenditure, on income, on salary. But what is the nature of this dispute? Financial problem, but what is the nature of this financial problem? You have to understand that. They understand and frame the dispute according to its nature. Next, the counselor has to simplify and narrow down the dispute. They sometimes present their own matter in a very complicated way. They think that it is like an Himalayan mountain and they cannot carry this. The only way is that they should leave each other, they should separate. Because they look at the enormity of the complexity of the issue. Otherwise, it may be sometimes very simple. You have to simplify and narrow down. Bring them to a point where they recognize each other's position, and nature of grievance. They are, after all, human beings. They have intellect, they have reasoning, arouse that. And then when you arouse their reasoning, they themselves recognize, no, my partner, on this point he is right, maybe I am also wrong. Now the ice starts melting faster. When they come to this point, yes, I think, yes, I am also sometimes wrong, and he or she is also sometimes right. But since we don't have the understanding, this adjustment is not taking place. Now it means now the ice is melting rapidly. Help them find themselves. Again, I'm emphasizing, help them speak, help them find out, help them in identifying, help them find out common ground. Let them find out that where they can meet, how they can resolve, what can be the common ground. You don't know as a counselor, you are not living with them. They know their family situation. Whether they can find a common ground, let them identify. Once they identify it, then slowly bring them to agree to discuss possible resolutions. There can be many resolutions. There can be many options. Let them find out their own options. We cannot thrust upon them because we don't know 100% situation. There are very finer details. Let them find out the options, and then once they select an option or options, then possibilities of reconciliation. And then once they find the reconciliation possibilities, then some adjustments have to take place. It will not be somebody's option which has to be imposed on somebody else. Adjust conflicting situations. Now here you can play a very active role in creating the adjustments. Counselor should never, I repeat, never lose. For example, parents should never lose and never let the parties lose hope, confidence, and dialogue. But whatever parents are doing, they immediately lose hope. No, no, our son cannot live with this lady because she cannot live with the grandmother, with the mother-in-law. Don't lose hope and don't involve yourself. Let the part and never let the parties lose hope. You have seen the methodology of Quran. Even when the punishment is being conveyed, the Prophet, peace be upon him, is being told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that tell these kafirin, these kafirun, Bashir, give them the basharat that they will go to hell. What does that mean? Even if you are conveying the message of punishment, conveyed in such a manner that they don't lose hope, they find that still there is a hope. Although I have committed this, but there is a hope of tawbah. There is a hope of istighfar. There is a hope of coming back, and there is a hope of forgiveness. Tell them the punishment, but give them the hope. Hope, confidence, and dialogue. If the dialogue continues, one day you are going to win. If the dialogue is broken, then everything is broken. And this depends upon the hope. And the hope brings the confidence. And that brings the resolution. Before the parties leave, for example, matter is not completely resolved in one session. Now the parties are going home. Settled or unsettled, they are going home. Re-establish communication so that they listen to each other. They not only talk to each other, but they listen to each other and to set the rules. This is a separate, lengthy subject, that how they are told about this. How can they while they are still enemies, for example, let us use this word. There is still, fighting. They will not reconcile, but you establish a communication between them, re-establish the communication between them in such a manner that while fighting, they love each other. This is very important, very subtle thing. When they go back with a re-established communication, with sincere commitment for care, compassion, positive approach, with protocol for day and night. For example, when I tell them that, okay, you have not reconciled, you are not ready to reconcile, and you are going for, but as long as you are living in this form with these children, you are not yet separated. Lillah, we had started with the model. You are not doing for the spouse. Lillah, keep this in mind. You are doing it lillah. You are doing something good for the enemy. Lillah. You are treating the enemy in a better way. Lillah. At night, never part. Never go to bed without saying Allah Hafiz, Khuda Hafiz, Fi Aman Allah, Shabba Khair, take care, and if possible, add some loving gesture. And this is playing miracles. They come back, they say, yes. Now, every night when we go to bed, we used to say this, and now we have come back in one, we have come back in one bedroom. And now, before going to bed, not only saying this, we are adding something more. And now we think that we are losing rancor and the love is developing. We can, I think, we can adjust. We can understand each other. Simple things. I've just given an example. When you get up in the morning, the first thing you must say, even though you don't like each other, Lillah, because salam is one thing on which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I'll take your hisab. We'll discuss inshallah next time that what are the points on which Allah says I'll take your hisab account. Now, in the morning, as soon as you get up, after remembering God, the first thing is to say Assalamu alaikum. And that will remove your rancor. Even if you are not yet clear, and these things are playing bracket, they come back. And make better, add some gesture, loving gesture. Hold your hand, hold her hand, talk to her. And there can be more loving gestures. At home and at workplace, when you are not at one place, still communicate. Make a telephone call, as you make so many WhatsApp calls or WhatsApp messages. Even if it is not necessary, send some message to your couple, to your spouse. I miss you. I love you. What are you doing? Ask him, have you taken the sandwich I had placed in your bag? Something unimportant, otherwise looking to you unimportant. These are some things which are inculcated in detail, but I'm just giving an example. And while coming back or going out of home, there's a certain protocol. Never mention any point of dispute at the time when the spouse is leaving or at the time when the spouse has come. That is the point, in fact, to sympathize, to welcome, to love, to smile, to receive, to greet, to send salam. And these are the starting points. Very simple points, and they play magic. If you discuss these things in detail, you will find there is a magic in this. Then draw the couple themselves to resolve. What? Resolve not to involve others, not to involve the parents, as much as possible. You have seen in Quran, ayat 34, Surah An-Nisa, there is a procedure between husband and wife, was, and so many other things. Ultimately, when you think that now there's shikak, there is going to be shikak, there may be a disruption, there may be separation, at that point, you bring others also, family members, committee, reconciliation committee, you bring them in. Not on normal spousal disputes or disagreements. Resolve to submit disputes to dispute resolution mechanism. Here I may emphasize that this dispute resolution mechanism in case of couples has to be custom made, specific. Every couple is living in their own situation. They have to decide themselves that, for example, if you have a problem on the finances, how we will resolve this. Not in front of children. We'll not tell anybody else. We'll sit together. How? When? Not while going to the office, not while coming back to home, but you must decide between yourselves what is suitable for you and how to proceed. They should customize for themselves, and they agree. They work out a dispute resolution mechanism for future. That in future, if there is any problem, we'll not come back to you. We'll not go back to anybody else. We'll resolve among ourselves. Resolve, first of all, have a strong resolution that we will not fight, come what may. And we will not dispute in front of the children. We will not dispute, will not fight in front of our parents. We had discussed this slide earlier, and I'm repeating this. Since her mother particularly mother, shares her sufferings and feelings with the children. because they are available to her more than the father, 24 hours. The process of negatively oriented generation to generation, children from to the grandchildren, continues to breed negativity. And this is our intergenerational issue. Don't think that you have misbehaved with the wife and wife will not share it with somebody. The first thing she may share or the children may observe is with the children. And the children carry it generation to generation. Resolve it yourself rather than she conveys it to the children. Frame of marital relationship. I think still there's a long way to go. I stop here and inshallah we'll take this part of counseling. There are, I think, two important parts which we will take next time. And then I would request you to guide me how to improve it. With this, I stop here. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzat amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك يا ربنا تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وبطاعتك عن معصيتك وبفضلك عن من سواك. اللهم بفضلك ورحمتك أعلك لك بالحق والدين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la.
Amen.
Allah, purify our heart, strengthen our faith, increase our knowledge, and make us benefit from what you have taught us. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, grant them your mercy, make their graves guarded from heaven, and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, remedy our sick and grant them full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, our son Ma'raj, brother Munshi, mother-in-law, and our brother Khalid Azam are sick. Oh Allah, grant them full and speedy recovery. There is no cure but yours. Oh Allah, grant them the cure that leaves no ailment or sickness.
Amen.
Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself, that none of us leave this gathering, but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. Subhanallah wa bihamdih. عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله